Hundreds took part in a procession this afternoon to honor Deputy Conley.
That procession stretched from Scott County High School to Battle Grove Cemetery in Cynthiana. As WKYT's Lucy Bryson shows us, people lined up along the route to pay their respects to Deputy Conley.
He served us, and if this is a small way that I can show my support for his service, I'm happy to stand out here.
The streets of Georgetown are lined with people, with many mourning the loss of Deputy Caleb Conley.
He was just an important member of the community, and his loss is felt by all.
After a service at Scott County High School, the procession traveled from Georgetown to Cynthiana, where Deputy Conley will be laid to rest. Support is overwhelming, and people are coming from across the country to honor him. Raquel Guevara is here from California. She says she's here to honor Conley as well.
This doesn't happen where I live. It's kind of every man for themselves, but here it's a real family, and I see that.
Her brother worked with Conley, and she shares that there are so many hurting.
I'm very proud that my brother's a part of something even bigger than himself. It's amazing that he can be a part of that and show support.
The community stands beside the Sheriff's Department and Conley's family as well, by taking the time to pay their respects.
You know, my brother, he lost one of his brothers, and the support is amazing.
All in an attempt to show their support during such a trying time. In Scott County, Lucy Bryson, WKYT.